We are in the hour of mercy. It's a Friday in Lent, and we do well to pause before the cross and to be aware of the power that we have to help these souls on the other side, whose number one day we will join if we make it. Lent is a time to remember certain things. We are all dust, going to return to dust one day. The way in which years ago I came across the Purgatory manuscript in the early 80s, just by chance, in the monastery where I was, which is now long since closed, is in itself an intervention of providence. For when I had this before me, I read it and it really hit me as a grace for all mankind, and that it was there because the Lord wanted it known, and therefore that before me standing, it waited just for a brain to filter it and translate it into English, far more important therefore than the original French as regards the number of people that it could eventually reach. And it contains a map of the other side, the geography of the beyond. And that's a real lesson. The big map is the one that we cannot see, the universe of the unknown, which is what they begin to know 1 second after they leave our own. But they're not quite separate, and the frontier is not absolute. There are comings and goings, there are interventions, and precisely this is one of them, a soul coming back for help. Maria Sima had a lot of these experiences, and other souls have had the same. It's a real world, therefore, and something to be aware of, because the Lord, if He gives us a devotion to the holy souls, is giving us, as well as a burden, a privilege, for they are not lacking in generosity, and those who have a devotion to the holy souls find that they are themselves receiving favours, and that their prayers are being answered, and we can guess why, particularly. And so, in this map of the beyond, what comes through is that there is a perfect re-establishment of order. The balance is put right. Everything comes back, for better or for worse. And therefore we need to be aware of the structure of the soul itself. For in the beyond, the soul, which has been the guilty partner in the equation, has given the commands to the body, suffers in its spiritual senses in accordance with the commands it's given to the physical senses. Therefore it can make sense that the soul can suffer pain even without the body. And hence we find all possible degrees. That applies not only to heaven, but also to purgatory and to hell. In hell, of course, it's absolute, and the demons have great delight in tormenting those in those spiritual organs corresponding to the physical, for each sin. In glory, those physical organs which have sacrificed themselves and suffered are recompensed with accidental glory and ecstasy and bliss. In purgatory, there is the purifying of the abuse of the organs, the faculties that have been abused. And there again, it's not just one level. There's a whole world within purgatory. And it seems that the lowest possible level is akin to hell and participates in some of its elements, and that souls who go there start off resembling in ugliness something which is not angelic at all, and go with the immediate instincts of rebellion, but actually they're not fundamentally angry, they're just a bit of what they were, and they have one big difference: they're happy to be there, awful though it may be, because they realise that they're suffering in the merciful will of God, and it will end. But but there's a lot of unfinished business, and they can be there a long time. The soul in the Purgatory manuscript was there for a couple of years before she could make known her need to the other soul on this side. And then it carried on, but then when it got closer to liberation, there was that level which she calls the parvish, the threshold, where there was no more pain of the sense, that is, those senses corresponding to the physical senses, but only pain of loss, the desire, therefore. With regard, therefore, to what she is able to communicate, there are lots of tips. One would be something we can take with us today as we come into this desert period of Lent. It's interiority and some of the tricks to maintain it. So I leave this with you as food for thought for these 40 days. The protection of the inner desert. For the Lord prefers the company of interior souls and is uncomfortable with the extrovert, the busybody, the noisy, the over-expansive. So we have this word from the soul in purgatory as a tip. Don't do anything to make yourself noticed exteriorly. Avoid the company without offending charity, that's important, of those sisters who are too extrovert, who lack charity. And we find almost the same words coming in the diary of St. Faustina. The Lord does not delight in souls that are over-talkative. He wants recollected souls and delights in their company, and we should have the same instinct ourselves. You, for your part, just be occupied with your own business. There are many holy, in inverted commas, spiritual busybodies, and they're to be found quite often on the internet. Holy blogging, which is outside the divine will that they're trying to serve, because the Lord didn't ask them to take on all this. He had other things for them to do which they're missing, notably keep him company. Efface yourself. That is a constant in the lives of the saints. We have it in the life of St. John Mary Vianney. He would never allow himself to be photographed. And the only way that he was photographed was after his death, when we got him in the, not in the grave, but in the coffin. Padre Pio also refused to appear on pictures until he was commanded to. Never express your feeling unless you're forced to. It's the same principle. There was another saint in the Middle Ages who was a mystic, and the Lord would talk to her, and he gave that same message to her, not to talk until she was interrogated. That is to say that one answered, but one didn't take the first step in conversation. It's a different mode of being. It's receiving rather than giving, and not invading others, but being available. Concentrate your attention on the one sole object which should be the motive force of your whole life, Jesus. Yes, Jesus from morning to evening and from evening to morning. That would be a whole program, not only for Lent, but for our whole existence.